How do we screw the lid back on the cookie jar before it's too late? In the midst of the night at 2:52 a.m., our lawmakers funded the government through a $1.2 trillion spending bill, bringing the current US debt up to $35 trillion. Although this may all seem new, it's been going on for some time now. In the 3rd century, spending problems became evident in the Roman Empire, spending money they didn't have on subsidizing grains, public entertainments, the massive bureaucracy, and military establishment. To control the debt, they raised taxes, debased their money system, leading to monetary chaos which contributed to the fall of the Roman Empire, a rich nation that became broke due to overspending. Sounds familiar? This is the current trajectory of our great nation unless we do something with the pork in our bills. Ask yourself, should the US government actually print debt for the following? $850,000 for affordable housing development in LGBTQ seniors in Massachusetts. $15 million to Egyptian college tuitions. $400,000 to a gay activist group that teaches elementary school kids to be transgender. Another $400K to a group that gives clothes to teens to hide their gender. $500K to a San Diego zoo to build an anti-racist nature appreciation program. $1 million to renovate an LGBTQ center in Philly. $850,000 for a bus stop equity project in California. $368,000 for a podcast and $2.5 million for a new kayaking facility in New Hampshire. $4 million for the Alaska King Crab Enhancement Project, $1.4 million for solar energy project in Wisconsin, $1 million to amplify Latinx businesses groups in Massachusetts. But cutting all of this pork isn't enough to save us from the collision course we're on. As America is currently experiencing, the Roman Empire ran into a major crisis, the breakdown of the family. The strength of any nation depends upon the strength of the family, which is a fact, because the home is the basic foundation of any society. It is the most influential element in national character. Rome grew to become so powerful because early Romans understood this philosophy. Family is where you lay down the groundwork for morality, values, goals, self-control, and loyalty. Like Rome, the United States was built on a foundation of strong, stable families in which the father was embraced as the chief authority. In the early days of the Republic, society valued women for rearing, educating, loving, and giving the children the time and tender care they needed. But the Romans, as in America today, began to turn to a new morality that no longer valued marriage and the family. This new morality caused them to lose respect for traditions such as marriage and family. Drawing the following parallels from today's society to what began to happen in Rome, E.B. Castle wrote the increasing frequency of divorce and growing freedom and laxity in women's morals, all of which ended in loosening of the old family unit, which the best in Roman's character had its roots. In today's America, we think that we can abandon marriage, the foundation which made America great, and suffer absolutely no consequences. Jerome Carsopino wrote in A Daily Life in Ancient Rome that Roman fathers had, quote, yielded to the impulse to become far too complacent. Having up the habit of controlling their children, they let the children govern them. Around this time, Rome saw an epidemic of divorces. Today, the US is witnessing the same epidemic. If Rome fell due to the breakdown of the family, what makes you believe the US can't fall because of its current breakdown of the nuclear family? Ronald Reagan once said, "A nation that cannot control its borders is not a nation." In the late 3rd century, Rome encountered another major crisis. Goths, a coalition of Germanic tribes that were long foes of the Romans, were massing along the Danube River, begging the Roman Empire to let them inside their border. New tribes migrating inside the Roman territory was typical. They had a certain procedure, something we would call policy, which allowed the influx of migrants inside their borders. So what could possibly go wrong? The arrival of the Goths in 376 is what happens when good border policy is ignored. The stark resemblance between this and today's current immigration crisis in the United States is both alarming and eerie. When good migration policy was in place, Rome developed as America did. When migrating tribes were asked to be admitted to the empire, the Romans tended to follow a fairly standard policy. Tribes were broken up into smaller groups, asked to denounce their leaders and submit all of their weapons, and were sent to underpopulated regions. By diluting the tribal loyalty and disarming newcomers, Romans strengthened their economy, increasing their tax revenue, and swelled the ranks of the army. According to the 4th century Roman historian Aminatus Marcellinus, this time around, things were different. Marcellinus writes that the Romans deviated from their standard procedure when integrating with the Tavergini, one of the Goths tribes, into the empire, not disarming them or dispersing them across different regions, possibly due to the Tervingi's overwhelming numbers. Meanwhile, the Gretungi, another Gothic tribe, crossed the Danube into Roman territory after being denied entry, exploiting the Romans' preoccupation with the Tervingi tribe. Overwhelming local military forces, the results led to a massive, thick army that was now loose and armed in Roman territory. This initiated a 6-year conflict devastating the region, resulting in numerous deaths, including Emperor Valens at the 378 Battle of Adrianople. Peace in 382, negotiated by Theodosius, allowed the Goths to settle as an autonomous federation within Roman borders, but their lack of integration fostered ongoing political instability. But why did Romans suddenly abandon and ignore their procedures? Why does America today suddenly ignore their migration policy and allows 8 million illegal immigrants inside of its borders in a span of 3 years? In ancient Rome, altruism and the lavish lifestyle of the elite led to negligence in enforcing border policies and fiscal responsibility, reflecting a broader disconnection from a pragmatic governance that once facilitated the empire's rise. This pattern of neglect, exacerbated by a degradation of traditional family values and societal cohesion, catalyzed Rome's decline. Similarly, the United States faces debt, a crisis of family structure, and a continuous immigration policy aimed at a landscape of polarized and altruistic ideologies. To screw the lid back on the cookie jar and avert a similar fate, a multifaceted approach is necessary. First, fiscal responsibility must be reinstated, with a focus on trimming superfluous spending and investing in sustainable development that benefits the broader populace. Projects and policies should be rigorously evaluated for their long-term impact on national stability and prosperity, rather than the short-term political gains and catering to a niche interest. Secondly, efforts to strengthen family structure and community bonds should be prioritized. This involves not only promoting policies that support families, but also fostering a culture shift that revalues marriage, parental responsibilities, and community involvement. Education system and community programs can play pivotal roles in instilling values of commitment, respect, and moral responsibility from a young age. Education policies should be revisited with an emphasis on sustainable integration, security, and mutual benefit. Learning from the Roman precedent, policies should ensure that immigration is managed in a way that supports national interest, including economic growth, social cohesion, and security. In summary, the lessons from Rome are clear. Unchecked altruism, fiscal irresponsibility, and the erosion of social foundations threaten the stability of any great nation. Addressing these challenges require a return to prudent governance, with policies that are grounded in long-term well-being of the nation and its citizens. By recalibrating our approach to spending, reinforcing the family unit, and implementing a balanced, sustainable immigration policy, the United States can avoid historical pitfalls that contributed to the collapse of the Roman Empire.